It's day 2 of the Australian Land Conservation Alliance get-together with the theme of Unite for Nature. And I do hope you had a good sleep because we've got a massive day today on Ngunnawal country here today. First, here to open the second day of the conference is Rebecca Vassarotti, MLA, the member for the seat of Kurrajong. Rebecca is a member of the ACT Greens. She's Minister for the Environment, Heritage, Homelessness and Housing Services and Sustainable Building and Construction for the ACT, which basically leaves nothing for anyone else. Rebecca, thanks for coming along.
Good morning. It's so lovely to be here. I would like to begin by acknowledging the country that we are so lucky to be here on today. And I do this using the language of the Ngunnawal people, a precious gift given to me by traditional owners. Darawa Nuna, Darawa Ngunnawal, Yongu Nalawira, Donimanyan, Ngunnawal Darawa Wari. This is Ngunnawal country. Today we are all meeting together on Ngunnawal country. I pay respects to elders past, present and emerging and acknowledge the incredible contribution made to this region and this city. I'd also like to acknowledge any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here in the room today. It has been a challenging and difficult week for, I think, many of us in Australia, so thank you so much for making the time to come here today. I would like to pause at the outset and acknowledge that this land is and always will be Aboriginal land, and to reflect on the legacy of this dispossession. And when we are talking about private land, we are talking about unceded Aboriginal land. Thank you for inviting me here today under the theme of Unite for Nature, speaking to one of my core values around delivering solutions for the planet through collaboration. As ACT Minister for Environment, Agriculture, Sustainable Building and Construction, Homelessness and Housing Services and Heritage, I have both the pleasure and the responsibility of being at the crux of a number of our biggest wicked problems. These challenges are ones that intersect in ways that require us to work in partnership to find a way through. Unusual and new partnerships are particularly important, but today I would like to focus mainly on the importance of getting our foundations right. I'm delighted to see so many bright minds and big names coming together to celebrate and showcase the work that the conservation sector and partners do together to restore endangered ecosystems, build the protected area estate, tackle invasive species, and deliver nature-based solutions to climate change. While I would love to be here for the whole day, I am particularly jealous not to stay for sessions on conservation in productive landscapes, First Nations leadership for outcomes for nature and culture, and all the discussions about how to make this real. So basically, I really would have liked to stay for the whole day. As will have doubtlessly been mentioned, the collective commitment to the October 2022 Environment Ministers meeting was to achieve a national target to protect and conserve 30% of Australia's landmass and water by 30% by 2030. This was reaffirmed at the June 23 Environment Ministers meeting, where we committed that by 2024 we would develop a roadmap to protect and conserve 30% of Australia's land. A key component of this is identifying new partnerships and to identify the incentives to increase private land conservation. Private land conservation does play a key role in delivering nature protection and restoration, especially when it comes to connectivity in underrepresented bioregions that are dominated by private land tenure. While people in the ACT often think of the ACT as predominantly an urban landscape surrounded by land protected within the reserve estate, but we actually have 15% of our land mass covered by rural leases. It's an important part of the picture, as we know that there are significant environmental values on this private land. As Minister for Agriculture, I have had the privilege of engaging with many of our rural landholders here in the ACT. And in this role, I have seen agricultural land that surrounds our city, that it does enjoy strong environmental stewardship from our farmers. The ACT's leasing system for land also lends itself to strong partnerships between rural landowners and the government for conservation outcomes. The ACT is currently developing its first agriculture strategy in 20 years, centred on building and strengthening our local food system, and it's currently out for community consultation. The development of this strategy has created the space to think about how we as a government support our rural leaseholders, and that has included some very helpful discussions with rural and private landholders about ways that we support environmental restoration. It's great to be innovative and reflect on the opportunities of these great alliances bring us, and the opportunities of attracting private capital into private land for conservation. However, I would like to make an important and key point, that we need to get our foundations right. First, this does mean getting our nature laws right. We need strong and coherent policy, urgently, that secures Australia's natural environment for future generations of Australians. Given the urgency identified by the Samuel Review, the 2021 State of the Environment report, and many other reviews have highlighted the need for meaningful environmental reform, and these reforms need to be a key priority for the Commonwealth Government. Second, this means putting to rest a myth that keeps lingering, that myth being that Australia is unable to afford greater environment protection. To contextualise this, the 2022-2023 budget, the federal government provided $9.8 billion worth of subsidies to fossil fuel industries, as opposed to $1 billion for the environment. These are the concerns that the ACT government and I have expressed in hearings of the proposed nature repair bill, and one that I will continue to elevate to other environmental ministerial colleagues. Thirdly, if we are to talk about the nature repair market or similar market-based mechanisms, we need to return to the conversation to one that is focused on rewarding environmental stewardship and conservation outcomes on private land, underpinned by strong environmental laws, direction and funding from government. Conservation and environmental stewardship payments are not a new concept globally or here in Australia. It is the foundational conversation we should be having about supporting conservation on private land, not about creating another false market ripe for exploitation and failing to deliver, which has fundamentally been the story of carbon offsets. Finally, bolstering conservation on private land needs to be focused on both delivering the 30 by 30 targets and the 30 by 30 nature restoration target. This gives us plenty of scope to recognise, reward and collaborate with private land conservation organisations, landholders, lessors, and of course, importantly, Australia's First Nations. It has been unfortunate that the nature repair market conversation, partly because it was headed, in my view, and the ACT government's view, down the wrong path, has taken time away from designing a robust pathway to deliver our two 30 by 30 targets, and to focus on the important role private land and the people who love and manage it have to play. working to constructively critique the original direction of the nature repair market has taken up significant resources in our smaller government and has meant that other mechanisms that I would like to consider, such as how to adapt our local land lease system to provide access to incentives that other landowners receive in other jurisdictions for covenanting, have not actually been possible. My hope is that the national nature repair market conversation will settle back down to being focused on private land stewardship underpinned by government support, and be sure that it can be bolstered by private interest. But this, in my view, is how we will ensure greater conservation outcomes on private land. I hope it will also let die the idea that we can now look at private land to offset yet more habitat and threatened species losses. Australia is in an extinction crisis. Offsets can now only be our very last resort. My other hope too is that we can focus together on landing new, strengthened national environmental laws and standards to lift Australia's protection and ambition to protect our unique and extraordinary natural environment. To recap, I am really excited to welcome you all here today and wish you a wonderful day of sharing ideas and solving problems. We really do need to unite for nature, and we do all need creative, collaborative solutions that you can come up with. They just need to be built on strong foundations of a robust environment protection legal framework and funding that reverses the extinction crisis and that this country deserves. In Ngunnawal, Danyanyima, as our elders tell us, if we look after country, it will look after us. Once again, thank you so much. Enjoy today, and particularly enjoy getting out to Mulligan's flat and enjoying those gorgeous betons. Thank you.
Now, it's Jodie's turn to come up again. Jodie Gunn is the CEO of ALCA, and I don't need to introduce her too much again, except I will say this. Both Jodie and Vic know everyone, and by everyone I mean like all of you, right? When we were in the car going out to the dinner last night, they were like pointing out the window and naming every single person that we were going past. So if you need to connect with someone at the conference, maybe you've got a problem that you need to try and solve, you should come and speak with Jodie and Vic, find them in the breaks so that they can link you up and you can meet people, because that is the benefit of all actually being in the same room rather than in a virtual conference situation. So I've dobbed her in. Sorry, Jodie, but it's one of your skills. And here she is to speak with you.
Thank you, and to be fair, I'm pretty sure there's lots of people in this room that know lots of other people in this room, which is a fabulous place to be. Thank you, Minister Vassarotti, for opening our conference this morning, and also for making your acknowledgements to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the room today, and in particular the Ngunnawal people. We've been lucky to have Auntie Violet spending some time with us today across these past few days, and it's been fabulous to spend time with them in the context of what's moving around, and to have some very good discussions with them about pathways forward. We thank your government for their commitments to protecting, managing and restoring the natural environment and supporting landholders to deliver land conservation outcomes, including, as you've outlined, some of the rural leaseholders' opportunities and exploring new initiatives. And there are a myriad of groups working to protect, manage and restore the ACT's beautiful habitats across privately managed lands, from Indigenous-led initiatives like those of Richie Allen, who is Auntie Violet's son, to community groups like the Friends of Grasslands, locally known as FOG, to larger collaborative partnerships like the Upper Murrumbidgee Demonstration Reach, a collaborative initiative led by Bush Heritage Australia, or Greening Australia's long history of restoring ecosystems in partnership with landholders across the Territory. Minister, we're in Canberra this week, having brought the private land conservation sector to ensure that we can help our governments, federal, state and territory, to deepen their understanding and value of the work of private land conservation. Being in Canberra is important for our sector, as we strive to deliver ambitious policy and regulation that drives private land conservation. There are opportunities to grow the conservation and land management sector here in Canberra through conservation covenants and other policy developments, and we look forward to working with you to explore these opportunities to build support for private landholders. While we do a lot of work engaging with federal policy, state and territory policy is also particularly important, and it's often where the rubber hits the road for private land conservation. For example, conservation covenanting programs are delivered at the state level along with other policy incentives and barriers for landholders who are seeking to protect, manage and steward the natural values and the natural capital that they manage. And so it's important that we remain abreast of and engage with state and territory-based issues that have a significant impact on the outcomes for private land conservation. The ACT actually released a fantastic report recently about young people's hopes for the environment. It's a very beautiful report, so if you have a chance to see it, please do. And it collated postcards from young people across the ACT, asking children what they hoped for the environment. And of the 5 most common themes that came through, wanting to protect plants and animals was the most popular thematic response. And that sentiment of caring for and protecting our environment is increasingly being recognised by the broader community right around Australia. In fact, the data is clear. Did you know that Australians care about our environment and want more action and policy to protect it? 2 research reports released this year provide significant support to increase efforts to protect, manage and restore nature. The Biodiversity Council research found that, and the Biodiversity Council are out here in the room if you want to go and speak to them, 97% of Australians want more action to conserve biodiversity. Most Australians strongly support greater spending for biodiversity and new policies to protect nature. And 7 in 10 Australians indicate that nature conservation issues may influence how they vote in the future. A study by Pollination, Possible and Mobium, again, there's a number of pollination folk who have been in the room, found that 95% of Australians believe nature should be protected for future generations, and 75% said they would strongly take environmental policies into account at the next election. Which segues us back to the panel discussion yesterday, where we were encouraged by Amanda Mackenzie to really be strategic and enthusiastic about the communications that are being provided. And the evidence is that we have a warm audience ready for this work. This is where sector-wide efforts can really come into their own. When we coordinate around our collective messaging, imagine the impact that we could have. And we're building up this work with our members and partners. ELCA's 4th strategic pillar is simply people value nature. That is ultimately underpinned by a communication strategy that seeks to transform the way the private land conservation sector is viewed, is valued and delivers impact for a healthy and resilient Australia. And being here is part of that. And this strategy underpins our ability to deliver in full the 3 other goals within the strategic plan. For without the commitment of people valuing and therefore acting for nature, well, you know where that story goes. So one would think that after an emotional start to the week, a full few days already, dinner last night and an early morning with policy, well done for those of you that did get up for that, some of us must be starting to feel weary. However, certainly for me, with each discussion that I have and with each opportunity, I become more and more energised about the future that we have ahead, and I hope that many of you do. And when you look at the program today and you see further discussions around the opportunity for a diversity of landholders, farmers, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, conservation organisations, the range and diversity of private land managers and those that support and enable their work in this room, coordinating together. There's an amazing set of activities and discussions to head into today. And if you're not yet energised, look at how we're going to get started. We're about to learn about an incredible initiative led by an amazing woman all the way over from Chile. And this is just the beginning. Then we go into an incredible panel listening to and hearing about some of the really significant industry shifts. So welcome back today, everyone. To those that joined us, thank you for a glorious evening last night. And please enjoy another fantastic lineup of speakers today. Thanks for being here.